You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Boom! This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me in.
So we're here again with Stephen from Propstore. It doesn't seem that long since we were chatting. It's only a couple of months, and yet you've brought out this insane array of movie memorabilia and all sorts of amazing stuff, obviously including the Star Wars bits. And
of course, including the Star Wars and indie bits.
How does this happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of hard work for us. I think the last time we met was probably at the Dorchester when we were talking about the Darth Vader lightsaber, which was a monumental moment for Propstore, and I think it's ended up hammering out at about $3.6 million, which was a new world record for the highest priced Star Wars artifact ever sold, which was incredibly exciting for us. You know, really, it's sort of a testament to the work that we put in over the years trying to locate and treasure hunt these artifacts. But no, you're absolutely right. Putting together a collection like this, the auction it's live online right now, but culminates in a live auction that takes place on December the 5th, 6th and 7th, 1,350 lots. 3 days of auctions, and every year it's a blank slate when we start. You know, every auction we start with, we don't know what's going to come into it, and so as we build it and curate it during the course of the that period, we're always super excited as we see things come together, and you see relative items that maybe haven't been together for 40, 50 years.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, I suppose, as you're pulling pieces together, certain things feel like they match without you actively going out to make that happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the Superman items that are over my shoulder, we have Christopher Reeve's walking cape from Superman 3, we have the original Derek Meddings model miniature of the crystalline Kryptonian spaceship that Superman, as a baby Kal-El, travels to Earth, and then we've got a flying miniature and a clapperboard as well. And all of those have come together from different sources at different times, and I think that's what's so exciting for us, is never knowing what's going to walk through the door, never knowing what we're going to get to hear about.
And what might catch the public's interest, because obviously the Vader saber it's iconic on its own, it was always going to get people's attention, but then you come to another event and the elf costume, Christmas nearly, that feels very relevant. You know, there's other things you can't not be impressed by seeing Indy's hat.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and I think the Vader saber was one of those pieces that just transcended across, sort of from the collector fan base, from the Star Wars fan base, right across to just sort of general public interest, because it was one of those pieces that sort of you could tell the story very simply. Show the saber, say it's Darth Vader's lightsaber, that's it, job done. You know, you hear me waffling about the crystalline Kryptonian spaceship, and people are scratching their heads going, what is he talking about? And even if you show them a photo of it, they might not get exactly what it is at first go. But no, you're right. I think there are things within this auction that do have that mass appeal. I think Buddy the Elf, Will Ferrell, of course, Jon Favreau's film 2003. That's a film that's become a modern Christmas special. You know, it's a favourite. I think, you know, I watch it, revisit it year on year, as do so many people. It's a costume that's worn through 95% of the film. It's on all the merchandise, you know, etc. So I think that is something that people are drawn to immediately. They recognise it, and it's like, oh, it's Buddy the Elf. Again, the story tells itself. And I think the same can be said for the piece that you picked out there, the Indiana Jones fedora. So the fedora that we have in this auction is from Temple of Doom. Not many people are aware that the design of the hat's changed throughout the trilogy, the original trilogy, and so we know that this is a Temple of Doom hat because the crown came down in height from Raiders to Temple of Doom, and also the maker's labels on the inside, they changed during the era of those films being made. But you know, the hat is so synonymous with the character, isn't it? It is part of the silhouette of Indiana Jones. Jones. And in fact, of course, for The Last Crusade, one of the strap lines they used for marketing was "The man in the hat is back," and so it was all about the hat. And so, I think a lot of excitement for a piece like that as well. And again, this was a piece. I mean, let's just talk about the backstory for that particular item. This is a piece that came to us from a crew member who was gifted it at the end of production. Wasn't a collector, not really a massive Indiana Jones fan. Kept it in a Tesco carrier bag in his wardrobe for over 40 years. Never really thinking about the value of it at all. Never considering that it could have any value. And got introduced to us by a friend of his who said, "Oh, I think that might have some value," and came in to see us and were like, "Yeah, this is the sort of money that this could be worth." And he was just absolutely gobsmacked. Can't believe that it's worth that sort of money today.
I bet even in old Tesco, back from the 1984 worth a few quid. The Star Wars stuff. You've got Boba Fett's rifle, of course, from Empire.
We have, which is staggering.
Incredible story about just how that comes together, how the core of it was rented from other companies, and then bits are added, and then it goes back into the mix. When you do your archaeology, feels like so. I'm not just talking about indie, but talking about what you do. You're looking for detail, you're looking for marks, you're looking for glue marks even. That must be really a fascinating element of what you're doing, above and beyond being able to put on a wonderful event like this.
Yeah, I think the sort of forensic sort of deep dive research that we do now is something that we all enjoy, and it's incredibly rewarding when you get a win as well. So that if you think when we take a prop in, let's say from Harry Potter, and there are 8 films for us to go through to try and not only find the prop, but then to try and screen match it, it can be incredibly difficult and frustrating. It should be on screen somewhere, but you just don't quite get the right angles and details. But you're absolutely right. With the Boba Fett rifle, that's something that was made by Bapty & Co., who was responsible, the armor was responsible for a lot of the biggest films during that era, including James Bond, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, etc. And what we have as the basis for the Boba Fett rifle, of course, is a Webley Mark I 1917 flare gun. And look, I think that speaks to the sort of the very clever way that the designers were using real-world artifacts and then building them out with these greeblies and dressing, so that when the audience was watching that film, they engaged with it, and they weren't sort of almost on a subconscious level, because they were accepting the form, the silhouette of the blaster, and then it was like, okay, but it looks a little bit different. These things have been added to it. Okay, it's futuristic, and I think that's a fascinating part of the design that you see throughout the original trilogy, certainly. So this resided with Bapty & Co. for a number of years at the end of production. Of course, it is quite a nondescript piece. It is just a flare gun when you strip those components off. It was stripped off, of course, and cleaned back at the end of production. It changed hands in the early 2000s and went out to a collector. It hadn't really been fully researched at that point, where there was a full understanding about its use, its application. This is meant to be, it's purported to be. But when it came into us about a year ago, we got into that deep dive research. Of course, Brandon got very heavily involved with it as well. And that's where we're looking at the sort of the 4K, the highest resolution that we can get of the film to refer to. We're going through it frame by frame. We're not only using that reference, but then we're using the large archive of behind-the-scenes stills that we've amassed over the years from crew members. And it was just a superb win. A, we managed to match the wood grain. B, there's that really big chip out the back of the stock. That's probably something that happened during World War I. I mean, it could have been used during World War I and got damaged. That certainly wasn't something... It is, really. That's not something that we believe that was done by the production. It was just present when it was rented in. But then also, I think we sort of really enjoyed connecting the Empire Strikes Back blaster to the Jedi blaster, because, of course, the serial number, and again, this was using a behind-the-scenes still that we had access to, matches the serial number for this weapon. So for those who don't know, guns have unique serial numbers so they can be tracked and traced. And that was cast. They used the original Empire Strikes Back one, they cast it, and then of course it was redressed, refinished, and predominantly in Jedi it was a resin blaster rather than, and I think maybe wholly in Jedi it was a resin blaster.
Wow. When you say about the forensic elements of it, and when it comes good it's great, are there ever episodes or circumstances where you feel you're 9.5 out of 10 there, but you need to be 10 out of 10 there because it's got to be done. Does it ever get that close? And you go, we just can't quite say that's definitely that.
Look, you've got to be very, very careful when you're doing screen matching that whoever's undertaking that, and we have numerous people who will be doing the first pass, the second pass, and then the final call on whether or not it's a screen match. And we've seen this many times with some of our competitors in the past where they've called something a screen match, and we've looked at them and say that wouldn't pass muster with Propstore. And you don't want that sort of want to believe passion to overwhelm the evidence that's in front of you. And so I think there are many times where we're wanting to screen match something. You take the Christopher Reeve cape to the side of us here from Superman 3. A lot of the Superman garments, even though they're very comparable throughout the original 4 films, they were all handmade. They were all hand-stitched or had hand-stitched elements to them. And so that the S emblem, that lovely yellow and black S emblem that's on the reverse of it there, you would hope that we can screen match that. It's labelled on the inside Christopher Reeve. It's labelled walking cape. So it's also with Superman 3, we know the colour because it's that regular red. That's either the early part of the film or the end of the film because, of course, he gets evil and the costume gets darker throughout. So we know we're looking at either the end or the beginning. He's not flying, he's walking. But the problem is, of course, with the cape, when he's walking, you only ever really see the front of it, which is just the neck trim and over the shoulder. And that doesn't give us anything to work from. So even though it should be screen matchable, we just don't get the angle to be able to do it. So, we have to use it as a tool that's in the toolbox. It's never going to be definitive because just because we can't screen match it doesn't mean it wasn't in the film. We just can't say which scene specifically it was used in.
Wow. So if they ever do a 4K updated version of the original trilogy, that's the details there, you guys will be...
There's a lot of rumour about that coming out, isn't there? 50th anniversary and all that. I think we all want it, don't we? Yes, there are upgraded versions that we look at and we work with. We have a lot of original negatives, transparencies as well, which we scan and we look at those to the nth degree. Technology for us has been a huge benefit. When I first started Propstore in the 90s, it was sort of VHS just creeping into DVD. But VHS when I first started collecting in the early 90s, you'd freeze it, pause it, and you just get that sort of those fuzzy lines at the top and the bottom. You couldn't see anything at all. So I think technology has been a big benefit, a huge benefit for that sort of research aspect of it for certain. And who knows what's going to come in the future that will be even more beneficial.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for walking us through the pieces. It's always a joy.
Pleasure, Mark. Lovely to see you. Thanks, man.
Hi, this is John Morton from The Empire Strikes Back. I'm Bespin Boba, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So I'm here with Brandon. We are stood in the middle of the room at the Propstore preview. How's the day gone for you so far? It's lots of attention, lots of eyes on the products. That was pleasing.
Yeah, no, it's great. The point of today is really just to get the material out for people to see it. So we have press in. Later this evening, there's a reception for clients, some of the consigners, some of the buyers. And it's just all about getting people excited on the pieces that are coming up for sale. So we brought out about 50 or 60 items here. Some of the real highlights, obviously the Boba Fett rifle from Empire is the big one. There's an Indiana Jones fedora. The Matrix Neo costume has gotten a lot of attention. The Elf costume is very timely, being December. It's the perfect moment to sell that one. So we're just happy to be here, really, and just enjoying seeing the reactions to the content.
Do you like when you have an auction like this, there's a really nice spread of this die-hard script behind us, there's Disney animation stuff, Simpsons animation stuff. It's a really good spread. Is that always the intention when you do a preview like this, to just show the full palette of what you can do?
I think so. We pride ourselves on having something for everyone. So obviously there are pieces in this auction that are very expensive. The Boba Fett rifle, the estimate is 350 to 700,000 pounds. There's only a few collectors out there who are going to be able to bid on that, but on the flip side, we have things that are starting at just a few £1,000s or even a few £100s, and we try to cover a wide range of price points and also just titles. So I think in total there's maybe 300, 400, 500 different films and television series represented in this auction that span, predominantly the 1960s to today. Some material even a little bit older than that.
Yeah. with what you do, beyond it being a business, because of course it's a business, is there a sense that the archaeology, I said this to Stephen, the archaeology, the forensic work, if you like, that you do, how important that is to movie history, is that a big facet of it as well?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I think there certainly is that facet, and I guess I would like to think that, in the future, 50 years in the future, you could look at the Propstore auction catalog library, and there is a lot of movie history in there. It's a very sort of niche element of movie history, but I think for people that are into this world and get excited about these things, it's fascinating. Like, it's fascinating to learn about the different versions of props. We have over there the Shining axe. That's the lightweight foam version that they made so Jack Nicholson could carry it around for long periods of time. In the past, we've sold one of the hero versions. If you hadn't seen those two props in our auctions, you probably would have never thought about the fact that they had different versions of the axe. So I do think, there's something nice in the the preservation and posterity, just the posterity of what's going on here with the documentation of these things, the fact that they're well photographed, well seen in the catalogs, and accessible for anybody to come in and look at, it's fun. It's not really the core intention of what we're doing, but I do think it's a very positive byproduct.
Yeah. Of the pieces that are here today, everyone's got a story. Every single one has got a story. Which story, if you like, was the most interesting to you?
That's a good question. I'm going to look around the room for a minute. Look, we've already talked about the Boba Fett rifle a fair bit, so I hate to go back to that again. But I do think that's a particularly good story because not only has it not come to auction before, but it really hasn't even been seen. And, so much of everything Star Wars has been studied, endlessly by Star Wars fans and researchers. So to see something new that surfaces is always just really exciting. And I guess similar to that would be the Cloud City Ralph McQuarrie artwork. I love that piece. I'm a great fan of Ralph McQuarrie's work. I worked on one of the books about Ralph McQuarrie's artwork. What's so special about that is not only is it an original Ralph McQuarrie painting, but it's an on-camera painting. So most of Ralph McQuarrie artwork is production artwork, it's conceptual, it's behind the scenes type material. This is actually on camera, so that was really neat. And again, something that even though we've all seen it in the film hundreds of times, without seeing the physical piece, you might not have thought about how they did that shot, right? And how they did it. They had this painting that was done on an animation cell. They mounted it on a C-stand, probably with something like a popsicle stick behind it to give it some support. And they built physical clouds around it out of something like cotton balls, cotton puffs. And again, just the creativity, the ingenuity, I love that side of it. Like, so much of this world is about understanding the filmmaking process and the creativity that goes into things, and that's really a perfect example.
Is there, and this is an impossible question, is there a holy grail piece? And by that I mean a piece that's never been found, that may be tucked away in somebody's loft. Stephen was saying about the Indy hat was just in a bag in somebody's, in a cupboard for 40 years sort of thing. Is there a piece that's out there that people like yourself would be looking for that's just not certain?
I think there's a lot, really. I mean, I think I think you could sort it by film or film series to say, where's this, where's that? Over there we've got a Back to the Future hoverboard. Yeah. I don't think anyone's ever found the Marty McFly jacket from the first movie. It's like a guest jacket that people analyze a lot, and the orange vest that goes with it. I've never seen a version of that. There's many from Star Wars. We have over there an Empire Strikes Back clapperboard. Yeah. A lot of people have said, well, what happened to the clapperboard from the first film? And of course there would have been a few of them. Never seen any surface. There must be half a dozen each Empire and Jedi clapperboards out there. Never seen one from the first film, which of course would say the Star Wars rather than just Star Wars. That would be a fascinating artifact. You could go on and on and on through the films to say, where's this, where's that? Indiana Jones, I think the primary leather jacket that he wears through the majority of the first film, Raiders, has never turned up. It's not at Lucasfilm. Nobody knows where that is. So there's a lot of stuff like that. As you start to go through it, you just go, God, what happened to this? What happened to that? And I think it speaks to the fact that people weren't necessarily saving these things at that time. The idea of preserving these props and costumes, it really is something that came later, that developed later.
the auction takes place 5th, 6th, and 7th.
That's right. Yes.
Where does it take place?
So the first day, the live auction is actually here at the Cumberland Hotel where we are today. Days 2 and 3 are online only. So all the bidding for those is online. You can bid on any day via telephone, and of course you bid on any day online. If you want to bid live, come out to the Cumberland in London on December 5th.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yes.
Glad we finally got to
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on, and I hope the audio came out cleanly with your impressive device here.
Thank you very much. It'll be wonderful.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark panthertracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Right, so we're sitting outside in the corridor from where the Propstore preview has been. I'm here with Jamie. We've seen some amazing stuff. Of the things we've seen, and I'm going to say first off, that's not Star Wars or Indiana Jones, which things caught your eye?
I really like the Superman display. There's a cape, original cape. There's the ship that he comes down in from Krypton, and then there's a little special effects puppet there, headless. But there's just something about that film. I was saying this to Brandon at Propstore that, to think that one side of London you had The Shining in production, Empire about to be in production, Alien being post-produced, and then on the other side of London you've got Superman. And that's the great thing about, I think, being a Londoner, being a Brit, is that we're connected to these films. They are half British as much as anything. Even though we had big American directors come over here, there was a lot of British talent on these movies, and that's what I like to see here when they display this. And I think that's why they've done this here in London, this press day, because there's just so much connection to the UK. There's a shining axe over on the other side that isn't actually a real axe; it's a foam axe. Yeah. But yeah, there's so many items, Mark. I long for most of them.
I know. It's where would you put them? It's looking at the stuff. Just looking through the door, we can see the Die Hard script.
Yeah.
You can see the Indy hat, Phantom of the Opera mask from the stage production. So there's all sorts of incredible stuff in there. But of course, for us, the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously and Indy as well, but the Star Wars stuff's where it's at. To see that Boba Fett weapon, and hear the story behind it is just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got stills of Boba Fett signed by Jeremy Bulloch from, I guess, the 90s. Yeah. I think he used to write "To Jamie, Stay Cool." Jeremy Bulloch. I remember him telling me that his son was called Jamie as well, and he said, "What a great name!"
Yeah.
He always made connections with the fans, Jeremy. But seeing that gun, in those stills and in the movies, you do study them over the years, and you get familiar with the shape of them. And if you draw, and I used to sketch a bit, I used to draw that. But it's not until you see it up close that you realise how kind of funky it is. That it's this bastardised version, all put together from different pieces, and you see that detail on the hilt as well, which I don't think I've ever noticed before.
Me neither.
Yeah, but it's funny when you see these things up close. They've already got a sort of mythic property to them, but when you see them for real as well, it's just something. There's just almost like a straight line to the movie. It's like, that's what I think this is all about. Is prop collecting. Is people just want to get closer to that movie.
And a weapon like that as well, because that was a flare gun initially. And parts of that were used in war.
Yeah.
That weapon's been used in action.
Yeah.
Like Stephen was saying, the chip off the sort of the back stock probably happened in the First World War.
Crazy, isn't it?
So there's 70 years before they even made Empire. There's a history to that thing before it's even turned into Boba Fett's weapon.
Well, that was what was so clever about what they did with those early movies, is taking real items and then kind of retrofitting them and changing them around, because then that gives you a sort of groundedness that other films weren't able to achieve. And even in later films, when not Star Wars films necessarily, but other movies where they tried to take real objects and kind of retrofit them and kit bash them, I don't think they've ever been as successful as those first 2 or 3 movies. Very cool to see it up close.
It's a weight to them, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the thing, isn't it?
That's it. There's just because it's got that kind of groundedness. All you got to do is look at that junk in the Jawa Sandcrawler, and you just buy it because it's just stuff that we subconsciously kind of accept. But that other item I like was the Die Hard script. There's something quite tantalising about seeing a script with annotations on it.
Yes.
You see the creative process, right? There's a line through a bit of dialogue, and then a biro bit of writing saying what the line should be. I think there was a Harrison Ford Raiders script some years ago that went up with another auction house that had a cross through a line through a line of dialogue, and it said to Han Solo-ish. And it was Harrison's writing, it was Harrison's script. I just love that they were doing it right there, that moment, on the set, and going for another take with this new bit of dialogue they just pulled out of thin air.
I mean, Raiders always felt like they were kind of... I mean, Indy says it in the film, I'm making this up as I go. Raiders does have that kind of ad hoc... It's not, everything's planned, everything's connected with storyboards and so on. But it always had that element of, you know, if that doesn't work, let's drop that and let's try this.
Yeah, there was that phrase they used in filming, quick and dirty, you know, and they shot that in something like 30 days or something. Came in under time. I mean, Robert Watts once told me that when he scheduled that, he knew that Spielberg wanted it done quickly, so he took like 15 days off and showed it to Spielberg, and he said, I don't need that long. And they did it for even fewer days. So, there's something just about these movies from this era that are just so tangible, so gritty. That's the stuff I love. You know?
The McQuarrie. It's always a joy to see a McQuarrie in there, and to see a piece that, as Brandon said, actually is seen up on screen, used there. You know, we did a lot of production art on Jedi. It was a lot of sort of production paintings, if you like, rather than production art. But that is something that you see on screen with all the other magic that helps make it work.
Yeah,
it's so special.
And it's about the improvisation. They just sort of went, right, how can we sell this shot? Right, let's get Ralph to do a painting on an animation cell. Let's put it on a little stand, like Brandon said, like on a popsicle, and just shoot it against these clouds, whatever the clouds are made out of, whether it's cotton wool or whatever. But just having that canny ability to know what was the best and most efficient way to do it on camera, and something that the audience would buy. And you know, these were craftspeople. Obviously, they did the best, everything to the best of their ability. But there is a roughness to it when you get closer, of course. But as soon as you back away, again, you completely buy it, because Ralph. It's just those little dots of light that he's done, just to give you the depth into the like the docking bays and stuff. It's just incredible. I think that's one of my favourite pieces here, actually, because I don't know, there's something just so iconic about Ralph's artwork, and to see a piece that was actually in the film as opposed to, like you said, a concept art or a pencil rendering or something. Yeah, very cool.
And that Bespin Luke figure is kind of weirdly hilarious in a really cute way.
Yeah, so they took the 12-inch Luke Kenner figure and have dressed it up in the Bespin fatigues, which what looks like either paper or masking tape.
It looks like masking tape.
Yeah. Which again approximates that look of that costume, you know, and that the shot it was used in, where Luke leaps from the bottom of the carbon freezing chamber to the top, most impressive, as Vader says, is just, you know, half a second at the most. But again, it's like, what can we do in the most efficient, you know, cost-efficient way?
And in camera then, on set?
No, that would have been a visual effect. That would have been an ILM visual effect. But just, again, they're just thinking about, right, it's already here. We've already got a Luke. We don't need to build a Luke. There's a Luke already made for us by Kenner. Thank you very much. Let's just dress it in different clothes, because it would have been in his Tatooine outfit. In fact, I think they were due to release a Bespin costume figure. I think it's in Sansweet's book, From Concept to Screen to Collectible. But funny that it kind of originated in the movie itself.
On the set.
Yeah.
Incredible. And the clapperboard, you've got to wonder where that the shots that was involved in.
Yeah, so that was a tiny little clapperboard. So it looks like it was used for insert shots. So it would have been, you know, the switching on of a lightsaber or whatever. You know, it's usually a second unit director will go in and do those shots, because the main director's on to the next big setup, the big scene.
I think you just say second unit.
It'd be interesting to sort of hunt that down. I mean, in some of the documentaries you occasionally see the clapperboards. I don't think I've ever seen one that small. I've seen the giant VistaVision one in Return of the Jedi, which is about, 3 foot long, 2 foot high, and then you've got the standard ones. But yeah, that's very cool. There's also a Superman clapperboard there as well. Yes. Again, just something that was used on that production. All it is a piece of plywood, painted with a bit of tape and some chalk on it, but it's living history.
And at the last one, of course, the Jaws clapperboard was there.
Yeah, very cool. In fact, I went home and contacted a guy I've known online for a number of years, Nolan Philpott. He makes replicas of those Jaws clapperboards. Right. So I paid him a bit of money that I didn't really have to do me a replica, because I just think there's something very cool, particularly about that clapperboard, because it's got that tooth design. I don't think it lasted very long on set because it didn't do the job very well, but it's a great idea. And I've got that on display with my Vader helmet and some of my figures and stuff, just a little bit in the corner of my room. But it's just something. I can't afford to buy these props, Mark, as you know. This is not my realm. I'm here as a viewer and an admirer, but I'm happy to have a replica or a reproduction or whatever. Yeah.
Is there something? Is there something that's never turned up? This is Brandon. Is there something that's never turned up that you would love to see turn up at an auction like that?
Ooh. Do you know? For me, sometimes when I see a still that I've not seen before, it's like a great moment because it's like when you see an album cover shot and then you see the ones that weren't used that were taken on the same day. It's like these alternate reality sort of things.
Because we're so used to it.
Of course. So for me, it would be something like a piece of that ephemera, maybe photos that I've never seen before. I mean, my dream is to be locked in the Lucasfilm Skywalker Ranch archive for several days and watch that 300 hours of footage they've got from the original trilogy, behind the scenes stuff. I mean, that to me would be an amazing piece. If something came up like a bit of 16mm of the making of Empire or something like that, that would be very cool.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for chatting. It's always nice.
Thank you, Mark. Always good to see you.
We'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
Cheers.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fanthatracks TV and Fanthatracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fanthatracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fanthatracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
Coming up next on Fanthatracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.